Hey class, it's Mr. Wagner back. I hope your first couple days of remote learning are going well. I hope you're getting back in the hang of doing some math. I'm excited about it. And this week we are going to be starting a new unit. It's one of my favorite units. It's probability. And the reason I love probability so much is because it comes up so much when you're playing games. I love playing board games, card games, all types of stuff like that. And so today we're just going to look at something called simple probability. And by the name, hopefully you understand that this is going to be simple. And so let's first talk about what probability is. Probability is the chance that something's going to happen. Usually we're talking about random things of chance, like rolling a dice or pulling cards at random from a deck. If anyone does card tricks, right? There's 52 cards in a deck. Or even flipping a coin. If you're trying to make a decision with a friend or something, you can flip a coin. And the reason you do that is because it's random. No one's making the decision. So when we do these things, and let's talk about the most simple one, and that's flipping a coin. A lot of times I ask students, what's the probability of flipping a coin? And they'll say something like, oh, that's 50-50. What do they mean when they say that? Well, what they mean is that you have a 50% chance of getting heads or a 50% chance of getting tails. And so as we go into this probability unit and talk about simple probability, I want you to think about like a unit bar. And the reason we're going to use like a unit bar here is because probability is always a number between 0 and 1. So if we think about the bottom being 0 and the top being 1, this is the same as 100% or 0%, right? And so we have any number in between there can be a probability. And so when someone says, I have a 50-50 chance, they're saying, okay, well there's 50% that it could be up here, or 50% that it's going to be tails, 50% is going to be heads. And so how do we calculate probability? Well, what we do is we write a fraction. And I'm going to make this as easy as possible. On the top of the fraction, that's the number of outcomes you are looking for. It's long. It's a long fraction there. Number of outcomes you're looking for. Think about like what's going to make you happy. So if you choose heads, how many heads are on a coin? So I'm going to put this coin here so we know we're talking about coins. And so you have one outcome that would make you happy if you choose heads. Now what goes on the bottom? Well, that's the total number of outcomes. So in the case of flipping a coin, we have one thing that'll make us happy, and the bottom we have total number of outcomes are 2. You could get a heads or a tails. So that's what it means when we say we have a 50-50 chance. It's saying there's a 50% chance that we get a heads, a 50% chance that we get a tails. Now moving on to things that have more than just 2 outcomes, we can take a look at dice if you've played Yahtzee or Monopoly, and right now we're just going to take a look at rolling one die. We'll get into more complex and compound probabilities down the road, but for now we want to stick to simple probability. So think about how many sides are on this dice. Well, there are 6 sides. So if we wanted to find the probability, and in math we just put P, the probability of rolling a 5. So I want you to think about this for a minute. What is the probability that you would roll a 5? Well, how many things are there? How many 5s are there on this dice? That's the number of outcomes we're looking for. We're looking for a 5. Well, there's only one 5 on the dice. How many sides are there? There are 6. So there you have it. Your chance of getting a 5 is 1 out of 6. So now if we turn this into a percent, we would know where it goes here on our fraction bar or our unit bar. And the next thing to talk about is just what does it mean if something's likely to happen. Anything that's above 50% is likely. It's more likely, at least, than the other. And anything under here is less likely. So I should say more likely. More likely, less likely. The higher your percent, the bigger your fraction, the closer to 1 you are, the more likely it is to happen. If something has a 100% probability, that means it's absolutely going to happen. You can't have more than 100% because this means it's going to happen. And then a 0 means this is impossible. Impossible. So the chance that I roll a 7 on a 6-sided dice, impossible, 0%, right? And so these are just the basics of simple probability. We're going to keep digging into this more as we go through this unit. We're going to look at what happens with things that aren't chance, like what's probability of shooting a free throw, and how can we find those types of things out. So look forward to it. I'm going to post some assignments this week, and thanks for listening.